Hello, thank you for tuning in today and welcome to our digital talk, Women on Top, Women's Empowerment in Politics and Economy in Southern Europe, namely in Spain and in Italy. That's what we're going to talk today. The Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom is working in more than 60 countries around the globe for freedom and liberal solutions. My name is Rahel Zipner and I'm project manager for Spain, Italy and Portugal at our office in Madrid. Today, our topic is women empowerment, a word which is in vogue and a process which is probably one of the most challenging ones in the 21st century. It's a multi-dimensional social economic process that helps women to make their own choices, to develop their talents, and to gain control over their lives. Empowering girls and women is powerful, not only for themselves, but also for the benefit of society. And here today with us, we have three wonderful women who embody this. I'm very happy to present our guests to you. Ana Palacio is an international lawyer and founder of Palacio y Asociados, a law firm specializing in European and international law. Mrs. Palacio is a visiting professor at Georgetown University, where she teaches global powers, institutions, and governments. She writes a monthly column for Project Syndicate, the world's largest opinion syndication organization, and she publishes weekly in El Mundo, the second largest printed daily newspaper in Spain. Mrs. Palacio was also Foreign Minister of Spain and an MEP. It's a real pleasure to welcome you today.
My pleasure. I was the first woman Minister of Foreign Affairs in Spain.
From 2002 to 2004?
No, but we will speak, but I think that this is very informal. But I think that this is important because of the topic we are discussing. This is not something I would highlight in many other venues, but here, yes.
Maria, it's a pleasure that you're here with us today. Maria holds a PhD in Economics and Business Studies from the Complutense University of Madrid. She's a lecturer in Economic History and Institutions at the San Pablo University, and she's also the author of several books. With us today is Eva Vittoria Cammerino, joining us from Rome. She's a counselor in a municipality in Rome and co-founder and executive director of Prime Minister, a school of politics for young women in Italy with the goal of enhancing female participation in politics. And she also worked as an advisor on gender equality in the Italian parliament. Welcome, Eva.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
In terms of gender parity, Spain is said to be the 5th in the world, according to figures from UN Women. But is Spain really on the global forefront of female leadership? Maria, what do you think?
Well, in this topic and in other topics, I really don't trust very much the statistics, because I really wonder what is the real forefront of female leadership. If the numbers means a real weight in the political and social and economic decision making or not. And I'm afraid I have to admit that I'm quite skeptical in this respect.
That makes me lead my question to Ana, who has been the first foreign minister of Spain. So it would be very interesting to hear from you. What's your opinion on this?
First of all, I belong to a generation, you are much younger. So especially in Spain, this makes a difference because I am the generation of the transition. But in general terms, of course, because of this, I have been first in many places. First as a member of the board of the law societies in Spain, first as Foreign Affairs Minister, first General Counsel and Senior Vice President, woman, General Counsel and Senior Vice President of the World Bank Group. So I have been first in many, many places. This is something we can discuss. But in fundamentals, I agree with Maria Blanco. statistics in the extreme, and she's an economist and she studies that, is, I eat a chicken, you eat nothing. We have eaten half a chicken each one. So that's a bit what happens. I think in Spain, in Spain we have gone a very long way from my generation. In 75, officially, because the society had evolved, but in 75, officially, under the law, you should have your husband's authorization to open a bank account. I mean, nobody respected that because this is Spain. So this was legislation that became obsolete because society understood that it didn't make sense, which meant that when you have the transition, there was a big upheaval, and because the structures were new, and this is different in Spain, in Italy, because the structure, and this is something I have discussed with Italian friends, the structures were there. We didn't have parties, we didn't have, everything was new. And when everything is there to be done, it's easier. There was a push from society to have women in invisible places, let's put it this way. So, in a summary, I think that in Spain, the two areas that took longer to have a reasonable attitude in what respects, with respect to women in high positions, have been the two only areas that were structured, which is banking and which is the press, the media in general. Media and banking, because in my opinion, it's not a silver bullet, but I think that this is what makes Spain, and I think that Eva's opinion, I think that when you start anew and when there is a push of society, it's easier to establish a better level playing field than when you are facing a very structured institutions where climbing the ladder, it's always more difficult.
Yes, very, very true. Eva, do you want to comment on that?
I believe that we need both the society and the institution to get to a good point for women to be empowered enough to make the difference in this society. So I agree with what was said before.
Okay, I see that we're already diving into the whole topic also of social norms, invisible barriers in the society. So what do you think? What do we need? What needs to be done?
I think that we need to address the real problems, because of course there is a long road in front of us, and we make a lot of advancements in the right of women, etc. You mentioned the right of women. Which women? I mean, in Spain we have a huge problem with some women belonging to some different cultures in which young girls are married by their parents when they are like little girls, or there are still some terrible practices against women, and there are poverty. Poverty is one of the main problems women have in order to succeed in their lives, etc. When the main problem we have is a cultural one. You cannot change culture by law. Something you change, the example Anna raised is very, very interesting. So the law was overcome by the society. So nobody paid attention to this law that prevented women from opening bank accounts. It's the society who is ahead of the government. So I think there is a mistake to change the focus from the real women problems to the political power of a small part of the women population. And I don't know if it's the same in Italy.
So the conversation is really interesting because we have different points of view. I must say that I lived in Spain before the pandemic, and I feel Spain is much more feminist and women-friendly than Italy. But this is, is from one side a perception, but also I think the legislation is much more women-oriented in Spain. In Italy, we are working on it, but what we miss is women in position of power, both in politics and in companies. And my belief is that if we do not have enough women in politics in a high position, then we do not have people fighting for services for women. So, for example, for specific women health problems, if we do not have the right services, or for example, for kids, we always say that we haven't a lot of kindergartners for kids, and so women need to take care of them, of the kids of different ages, and then they cannot really work, and they can work part-time, or they cannot really focus on their daily career. And I think that more services in this sense can help a lot in empowering women, and on the other side, on giving responsibility to other sectors. For example, we have probably this is the next question, but the quota system really in Italy really worked. I have some data, and I don't know if I can share them with you right now, or I should wait, Rahel.
No, go ahead. It's like I let it flow. You have the questions, and I feel like you have a lot to say. So go ahead. I'll adapt. Don't worry.
All right. So basically, in Italy, we have two teams. Let's say pro quota and against quota. And quota is a result of a law, quota system, right? So the data are really interesting. I look at them again this morning to see if they were improving also in 2020. And so in Italy, the first law for quota was in 2011. I think that you might have heard the law Golfo Mosca. This is the name of the law that introduces quota in our system. Quota for companies that are in the stock exchange. So the law imposes quota for those kind of companies that are obliged to have at least the 30% of women in the board of director. And since 2017, 18, 40%. So it's increasing the quota for each company, of each board of director. So if we look at the data, in 2017, so in 2011, we had 7% of women in board of director, and in 2019, we had 36%. So we have a discard of 30% of women in board of director in Italy. And I think that is, data are data, right? So I know that the results, I'm often in this discussion pro and against quota, but those results are so clear that we cannot say that the law was not important.
Okay, so may I add something?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Congratulations for the result, but I'm afraid that the good results comes because it's illegal not to have 30%. If there is a law that enforces and is mandatory to have this 30% in all these companies, of course, that after some years, you will have 30% or more. But my question is, don't you think that the goal of a company is not to have the same amount or a percentage of women or young people or different multiracial in the board of directors, etc. But the goal of a company is to get profits, to increase profits, to offer employment to the population, especially women or not, to the best. I mean, if the goal of a company is to show the equality in population, not only in gender, but in, well, which gender? Maybe we need more quotas for transgender or for different genders that are not binary. So this is quite difficult to me to understand as an economist that the government is allowed to impose in a private property, a private company, to have a percentage of women, men, or whatever in the board of directors, as if being a woman is enough to be there.
Well,
and I know, because I know some women that are in different boards of directors, probably Anna is one of them, that we are perfectly capable of be there and to make decisions, etc. But really, do we need a law to be there? It's not really, I mean,
well,
I don't
And
understand.
it's a very, very disputed question.
Okay, well,
Go ahead.
all my life I have been against quotas. That's point number one. I would, however, say that sometimes you need certain incentives. I don't think that the only aim for a company is the profit. And just because if your aim is profit, this is the 70s. I'm not going to get into this discussion because this brings us. But how many of the big company CEOs, this is what we need to change is this. How many foreign affairs ministers you have in Italy? How many have there been? There haven't been. First, because there was a push from the society, and second, because these structures, the parties in Spain, were less completed. This is the debate that I always have with my French friends and with my Italian friends, because you have a different history, and this is what benefited us in Spain, and this is why, as I say, the two areas that were late, that were really, it has taken time, and it's work in progress everywhere. It's work in progress everywhere. One comment I share, I think that we all share. Being a woman is not being a victim. And this idea of victimhood is what I don't like about quotas. We are there. We are worth this position. So what I am critical is about this idea of victimhood. I know that there are, and it's true that when you take the median salary in women and in men, you see the difference. And I could tell about a couple of companies that I know very well, where I chair the committee, and you have to go into the details. And for instance, let me just give you an example of a company that is in the infrastructures area. And of course, there are all the engineers, and there are a lot of women engineers, they are very young. They are getting up the ladder. But if you take, there is a gap between the median salary of men engineers and the median salary of women engineers. Is this discrimination? No, because it's not a matter of sex. It's a matter of experience, age. I think, just my feminist credential. When I was elected to the board of the Law Society, I was given the most difficult committee to chair, which was the committee that had to deal with honoraries, so with what lawyers were paid and the disputes about that. And I hired 40 young professionals, and I ended up with 38 women. And the dean came and told me, it's a bit uncomfortable because your feminism, I say, no, not at all feminism. They are the best. And I can show you in whatever, by whatever measurement you want, they are the best. Well, but I'm being criticized because I'm speaking about the early 80s. Can you imagine? So I think that when you have a level playing field, women are there. We have to, in my opinion, we have to care, and I hope that we can discuss this, not just about girls, but about mid-career women. What I find is that the mid-career women, they need to feel more comfortable they can achieve, because in part, getting to the top is believing that you can get to the top. And this is extremely important.
And you talking about mid-career women also believing into that they can make it to the top, what other incentives can be given for them to rise and to take their path?
I think, I mean, Maria mentioned that before. The most important issue is cultural. And it starts at home. I was very lucky because my mother instructed us that the world, we had the same responsibilities and the same potential. But allow me to bring a reference, Condoleezza Rice. I was surprised that I met two of her friends from the same black neighborhood in Alabama. So when they grew up, when there was still the segregation. I mean, and asking them, this is because our parents and our school, this is the importance of family and school, they make us understand that the world was there for us, black women, black girls, and that there was no limit. And there you have this, I mean, herself, of course, she's an example. So I'm bringing this because this is I think that this is the basic issue, is school and its family. On the other extreme, it's practical issues. You make life much easier to young women by having a plethora of kindergarten, by having easy care for children. This makes much bigger difference than any directive from any European Parliament or anything. This is in the end what matters. And I think that life is going in that. There are many other areas where life is, in my opinion, is not going in the best direction. But yes, in this, with teleworking, with the new approach, and what we have, and Rachel, you have highlighted this, is the lower echelons, the ones that cannot telework. Because for the middle classes, this is different. And we have a responsibility to, but again, a responsibility that is commensurated to the objectives that we have. Not everybody is a victim, and not women are victims because they are women, and you cannot change society by law. That's not possible.
May I add something? I think that what Eva mentioned on kindergartens, etc., is very, very important. It's not enough because, after all, it depends on the culture and the decision of each woman that have, or not only women, but also men. I mean, each family has to decide what to do with children. I mean, and the men leaves probably are not enough. But I want to share my hope on new generations. I think that new generations are different, and women and men, young women and young men, are for independence. Not only independence in finance, but also in the way you live. And what I want as a feminist is that women and men are responsible for the society and for the society in the future society that we are projecting and giving to our children. My idea, my goal is that women and men are responsible, and to do this, we need to change culture in different ways.
Yes, environment for women empowerment, such as childcare and other things which we need to create a favorable environment. And the other thing is the mindset, which is closely connected to education. Education is the key, the upbringing is the key for critical thinking, for making own choices, and therefore for freedom in the end. And knowledge is the key to self-determination and therefore also to women empowerment. And the presence of women in politics paves the way for today's young girls as role models. And I want to ask Eva, because you are the co-founder and also a director of a political school for young girls in Italy. So what's your experience? How do you encourage young girls to follow their path and to have this mindset?
Oh, let's say I really like this discussion because there are so many things put on the table that I really love. So this school was born 4 years ago, and girls are from 14 years old to 19 years old, so that we have clear in mind the target. They are young, but they are not babies. And how do we work with them? We provide them speakers, normally are women, from the political sector, from the entrepreneurial sector, from cultural jobs. So we try to put them in front of different kind of careers. And those women normally tell the girls their story, their obstacle, their career. So they share their experiences, and in this way, we try to stimulate in them, let's say, the creativity, and we try to put them in the position, to put the girl in the position to develop strategic thinking, but also critical thinking, and let's say the idea that they can have an impact in the world. Because a lot of girls today in Italy, say with the social network, that they open up a world. But for example, in the south of our country, a lot of them just had the idea that women can be teachers and housekeeper. This is the mentality in south of Italy. So putting them in front of different kind of professional helped a lot to stimulate their mind, to think out of the box, to think that they can become what they want. This is the way the school works. And we have a lot of, let's say, we are really proud of what we are developing, because the school is getting bigger and bigger. And now we started with one school in Sicily, and now we have like 12 schools all around Italy. I would like to go back 1 second to what I heard just a few minutes ago, related to culture. I strongly believe that culture would make a huge difference. So the change passed through culture. But for example, we have a lot of books for kids here in Italy, for kids and let's say 89 years old boys and girls. And in those books, we have a lot of stereotypes inside. We have always this lady who is the mom who wash something, the dishes, cleaning the house, and then there is the father with a journal, a book, and going to work. And this kind of stereotype is like
reproduced.
Sorry?
Is it reproduced?
Yeah, it reproduces continuously this rhetoric. That is a storytelling that is every kids in Italy listen and see. And what happened? That you can change the culture, right? You have to change the books, and this is okay. But how do you change books? You let's say you can go with some sensitive campaigns, you can try with events, you can put some funds, some government funds in those kind of events where you say this is not more the case. You need to do books that are different. But then the real way to change the system, let's say the step you need is the law. We have right now in the parliament a law, a proposal, not a law. It would be a dream to have this law, but asking editors to avoid stereotypes and to, let's say, from these basic stereotypes I told you, to others. Say, for example, associate the word women with fat. no way, or small, or big. No, this is not the way it works. So I think that then to get to the results, to have a cultural change, you really need sometimes some low input to push the society to a more equal society. Otherwise, editors by themselves, they will never change because the books are on the market, because it costs a lot to change what is inside the book, and all this stuff, right?
But, Eva, may I ask you something? This law is really amazing to me because it reminds me to some many years ago, fortunately many years ago, when in Spain we have the censorship under the dictatorship. I mean, it's very dangerous to me to launch a law imposing some rules to editors. And I understand what you say, and I mean that we share values. We differ in the way to reach these values. To me, is amazing work what you are doing with the school for girls, etc. is a very, very good idea. But don't you think that how do you fight stereotypes? My question is, people in the south of Italy are completely isolated, because I guess that the children and young girls and young boys in Italy in general, probably they have Google and they have televisions and they see some series in Netflix without stereotypes and the opposite stereotypes. So I think that fortunately we live in an open Europe in which our children could see different ways of life, not only in Europe, but also in United States, in Asia, etc., etc. And to me, probably the way is what you said, to enforce critical thinking and strategic thinking in our girls.
When you were saying that you are going to have a law that will penalize to associate women with certain, I agree. I mean, I was thinking, well, who is going to judge? Are you going to, this is a very slippery slope. It is, how are you going to establish what is a stereotype and what it is not? And I think that you are doing much more. And if I were in the Italian parliament, what I would say is that every school, everywhere, they have to have some replica of what you are doing. I think that mentoring is extremely efficient. I think that role modeling, what you are doing with your school of 14 to 19, cannot you scale it up? It will bring, in my opinion, clear results for young girls. And I bring back the example of Condi Rice. Then you need to find, especially in the world of today, not to find people you trust, people you admire, to make citizens. Is this idea of citizenship, of just responsibilities, of bringing and you, men and women, boys and girls. This is the idea. They are citizens. This is our liberal order. Is based on not having people in general that are consumers of services provided by the state, but that are not independent. No, not independent as Maria wants them to be, self-sufficient and independent. No, citizens that contribute through elections, through laws, through all that. But with this idea of citizenship, I mean, again, you have to invite us to speak to your young girls, and I will re-varnish my Italian to be able to speak in Italian.
And the other day, I just want you to recap the last 24 hours I had. I went on a TV show yesterday, and as always, there were 5 men and myself. And they keep calling me because I'm the only one that they know. And I think that is so absurd, this situation, because you cannot always and always have 5 different men coming to the TV show and having just one lady who you call because you think that there are no other ladies in Rome.
The quota
Right?
lady.
Well, you know, that's a reality. That's a reality, and this is something we have to fight against.
I think that it's very important that individual women, I mean, each of us, learn to say no, learn to say is a role model and have to be responsible for their behavior. I'm afraid of the law. I mean, I don't want women rely on the state or on the laws, etc., instead of being responsible. The individual responsibility, to me, is sacred.
Women bring change and balance on the decision-making table. They could help to improve democracy, diversify the discourse, and also, if I think of Italy, I read that in Italy, not even half of the workforce are female, and just thinking how much more growth and economic potential could be unleashed if we just think of economic terms, if these women were integrated in a better way.
Let me share my hope in the future. At least from the entrepreneurial point of view, I think that the future is digital, and the digitalization of many activities and sectors is something that is happening right now. And we need a different leadership in big companies and in small companies. And I think that this leadership is quite different to the previous one, to the 20th century leadership. In this leadership, I think that men and women comes together. We go together to this economic future. So I think that the political ideologies will depend on different things, but the real future of average people goes in this way, in sharing a lot of things and a different leadership, especially from an entrepreneurial point of view. And well, I have a hope in this future in which who cares if you are a man, you are a woman, or what? It doesn't care at all.
So you're calling for a new type of leadership,
Yeah.
so to say.
No, but I think that Maria is right. The archetype of the machista leadership is gone. I mean, I honestly don't believe in women are and men are, but there are certain characteristics that this society is pushing forward, and this is networking, sharing, less hierarchical, more collaborative, and this has been, as I say, I don't believe this is the case. I think it is a society. It's not that it's women. No, I mean, take Golda Meir or Mrs. Thatcher. They were great women, great leaders, but they don't have any of these characteristics. Even your Chancellor Merkel. So what I think is that the society is moving towards a different organization where certain characteristics that make easier, that just in real terms break barriers. Because if you are working together in a network, it's much more difficult to be machista and just protectionist of you weak woman, you don't know. No, because you are co-working. And I agree with Maria that the new world, the technology, but also a spirit in our societies. And of course, as always, there are reactions. But these reactions belong to the past. They are not, I mean, they don't drive the future at all. I'm also an optimist. I think that especially the really new generation, the generation that has known that was born around the 9/11, that has seen the financial crisis, that has seen in Europe the immigration crisis. I mean, these young people have have had reality checks that make them, and you have them as students, and I have them as students in Spain less, but whenever I go, I find that they are different from the ones that were born in the 90s, which I have taught as well. So again, I think that we are going there to a better understanding, and I think that we will still have to fight for real feminism, for real equality, because this is not a given. You have to fight. I mean, Eva and Blanca, how many times you face in one of these round tables where you are in equal terms, how many times a young woman, or not a young woman, starts saying, well, you know, on this issue, I'm not an expert, but I would say, and she says something fantastic. No man will start by saying this, but many women do. Whenever it happens after the meeting, come here. You never, ever start an intervention by saying, I'm not an expert in this, but I have some opinions because, you know, no, you don't explain, you explain, you put on the table your opinion, and you reason it. And these are, again, these are subtle issues which it's very simple and very basic, but I think that we cannot let it go. We cannot just think, okay, well, I mean, this is not that important. I myself, I'm very vocal on this, on anything that has to do. Of course, when there is a promotion, okay, you fight. If there is a good candidate, a woman, by the way, of course, you will fight for this candidate. There are never equal terms. You have to just learn the CV and know what the strengths are and push for her if it's worth. And many times it's worth. And as I say, in my opinion, for us, of course it's young girls, of course. But it's also mid-career women. These the ones that start by saying, oh, you know, I'm not expert on this, and say, but you have said the most important thing that anyone has said. After introducing it by this, I'm not an expert. So I think self-confidence is one of the matters in which, when I do mentoring or I speak, or I think that in Spain, we say it, nena, tú vales mucho, which is a bit of a machista thing, but you know, you reverse it and say, of course, vales mucho. I mean, you have no limits, and you have to bet for that. And I think that too many of them have heard that nena, tú vales mucho in a kind of, you know, subdued way. No, vales mucho, of course, vales mucho, in equal terms. You are strong, not a victim. This would be.
I think that will be one of the phrases we'll take away from this discussion, and I think it's true. It's totally right. That's the most important thing. Let's also, with regard to leadership, obviously being a woman doesn't make you automatically a better or smarter leader, but it is high time for a change in leadership and for a new kind of leadership. So probably those who are willing to listen and to take decisive action. But there's more to it than the old type of leadership we have been used to before. Eva, do you want to add anything on what has been said?
No, I love the last intervention. It was really, really perfect. So no, I don't have anything to add, apart from the fact that I really agree we are not victims. So this is a very important message we convey as well in the school, The school is called, by the way, School Prime Minister. We launched this very ambitious title. And I forgot to mention it before, but since in Italy we never had women prime minister, we decided to call the school in this way.
So we've touched upon a lot of points. We've talked about policy, the hotly discussed issue of quotas and laws, which can probably not change as much as the cultural mindset, which needs to change. And it's a matter of a change of values. And so, yeah, also the cultural side needs to be tackled. And obviously, the most important thing is self-confidence. Don't be a victim, be active, rise up, and be the hero of your own story, so to say. I think that's a takeaway from today. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Eva. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Anna. It was my pleasure to be here with these three powerful women, and thank you so much for tuning in.